Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. We love to just really get into these topics, and today we're going to be talking about unexplained aerial phenomena, or UAPs, as a lot of you probably know them by now.
That's right. And we're going to be taking a look at some really fascinating events that took place in Ord, Nebraska, back in 2019 and 2020.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about an interview with Chris Grooms, the former chief of police of Ord, Nebraska, from the Good Trouble Show.
Right. And what's interesting is that this really challenges what you hear in the news today. We constantly are being told that these UAP sightings are new, but, Chris Grooms' story really kind of throws a wrench in that.
Definitely. Because when you hear him describe what was going on there, it sounds very similar to some of the things that we're seeing in the headlines now. So let's start with a little bit of background about Ord, Nebraska.
Yeah.
It really is the picture of small-town America.
Yeah. Quintessential small-town America.
Yeah. You're talking about no major airports, no military bases nearby, very little air traffic.
Right.
So you can imagine if you lived in a town like that and suddenly you started seeing these things in the sky, it would be a very big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a place where everybody knows everybody, so anything out of the ordinary is going to stand out.
Right. And as we're going to find out, what they saw was definitely out of the ordinary.
Definitely.
So over a period of 2 weeks, this quiet town was just inundated with drones, primarily at night, between the hours of 10 p.m. and midnight.
Right.
And the residents were very, very concerned. Understandably so. They flooded the 911 lines. There were over 191 calls.
Yeah, in a very short period of time.
Yeah, they weren't just casually reporting these things. They felt threatened. They saw these drones hovering over their homes, over their farms, even over their livestock.
Right. They were concerned about what was going on. And understandably so, because like you said, this is not a place where you would typically see a lot of air traffic.
Right.
Especially not at night and not in these numbers.
Exactly.
So this was something completely out of the ordinary for them.
And this really brings us to Chris Grooms' testimony, because he himself had multiple encounters with these things.
Yeah, and Chris Grooms is not someone who is easily spooked.
Right.
I mean, he is a former U.S. Army airborne infantry veteran. He's got years of law enforcement experience under his belt.
Right.
So when he describes these events, he's doing it from a place of knowledge and experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So his testimony really does carry a lot of weight.
It does.
And one of the most compelling accounts he gives is of this massive orb of light that he witnessed alongside the county sheriff.
Right, and they describe it as being incredibly bright, like a welding arc.
Wow.
Hovering just 50 to 60 feet above the ground.
That's pretty low.
Yeah. Most aircraft wouldn't be flying that low, especially not something that bright.
Yeah, I mean, just picture that for a second.
Yeah.
You're out in the middle of the night in this small town, and all of a sudden there's this blinding light hovering just above the treetops. It would be pretty unnerving.
Absolutely. And, Grooms himself, initially he dismissed the possibility of this being something extraterrestrial.
Yeah. But he just couldn't shake the feeling that this was something unlike anything he had ever seen before.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because he's a very grounded guy. Like you said, he's got a military background, he's got law enforcement background.
Right.
You would think that he would be able to identify something like that.
Yeah, you'd think he would be able to rationalize it, explain it away. But this was something that just defied explanation.
And he wasn't alone. Other officers reported seeing these things too.
Right, and they described seeing these smaller drones, but these drones were moving at incredible speeds, sometimes exhibiting almost instantaneous acceleration.
Okay, so now we're getting into some pretty high strangeness here, because that level of performance, that's not something you see with everyday drone technology.
Right, we're talking about capabilities that far exceed what we publicly know about drone technology.
Yeah, so it really starts to make you wonder what kind of technology is behind this, who's operating these things, and what are they doing in a place like Ord, Nebraska? It's a lot of questions that need answers. Yeah, it's a mystery that's just beginning to unfold.
And it gets even stranger, because not only is the technology unusual, but the behavior of these drones is also very strange.
Right. They describe these drones as being erratic and unpredictable, almost as if they were testing boundaries or probing reactions.
It's almost like they were trying to figure out what the response would be for the people on the ground.
Yeah, like they're conducting some sort of experiment.
It's really a head-scratcher.
It is, and, it almost sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
It does.
And, small-town America becomes this testing ground for some advanced technology.
But this isn't fiction.
Right.
This is a former police chief recounting his firsthand experience.
Exactly, and And the fact that we're seeing similar sightings now happening in other parts of the country just makes you wonder just how widespread is this?
How long has this been going on?
Right.
And what does it all mean? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to delve even deeper into this mystery. We're going to talk about some of the other strange things that were happening in Ord, Nebraska, and we're going to explore some of the possible explanations for what might be behind this.
Stay with us. You know, one of the things that really stood out to me in the interview was when he talked about the ranchers reporting drones harassing their cattle.
Oh, yeah. Like shining spotlights on them and causing them to stampede.
Yeah. It just seems like more than just casual observation. You know, if they were just surveilling the area, why would they focus on the cattle?
Yeah. You'd think if it was just surveillance, they'd be up high.
Exactly.
Trying to get a broad view of the area. Not down there, spooking the cows.
Right. It really suggests a deliberate intent.
Yeah. Almost like they were testing the animals' reactions.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what happens when we shine this light on them? What happens when we buzz them real low?
It's pretty creepy when you think about it.
It is. It is. And it really raises the question of, what was the purpose behind these operations?
Yeah. And speaking of strange behavior, let's not forget the fact that these drones were completely silent.
Right. No rotor wash, no buzzing, nothing that you would typically associate with a drone or any kind of aircraft.
Grooms and other witnesses, they all consistently describe these drones as being eerily silent.
Yeah. That silence is one of the hallmarks of these unexplained aerial phenomena.
Yeah, how is that even possible?
It points to a level of technology that far exceeds anything that we currently understand.
Right.
I mean, think about it. To achieve silent, high-speed flight, you would have to overcome some pretty fundamental principles of aerodynamics.
Yeah, I mean, everything we know about how things fly
Exactly.
says that you need some kind of propulsion system, and that propulsion system is going to make noise.
Right. So the fact that these things are silent suggests that they're using some sort of technology that we just don't even know about.
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
So we've got advanced technology, we've got unusual behavior, and then we've got this wall of silence from official channels. What did Grooms say about the response from the FBI and the FAA?
Well, he contacted both agencies hoping to get some answers, some guidance on how to handle this situation.
Yeah.
But their response was essentially non-existent.
No kidding.
No follow-up, no investigation, no explanation offered.
Wow, it's like they were deliberately ignoring the whole thing.
It's as if it never happened.
Yeah. And to make matters even more suspicious, records related to those 911 calls seem to have vanished from the call center.
Yeah. That detail is incredibly troubling.
It is.
I mean, if these were just misidentified objects or, some kind of explainable event, wouldn't there at least be some record of the authorities looking into it?
You would think so.
Right.
If it was just a case of mistaken identity, weather balloons or something like that, they would have investigated it, they would have written it up, they would have put it in a file.
Exactly.
But it's like this whole thing just disappeared.
Yeah, it just vanished into thin air.
And that lack of transparency, it really just fuels speculation. It makes people more distrustful.
Right, because if the government has nothing to hide,
Yeah.
why not just be upfront about it?
Exactly. Why all the secrecy?
Right, so it begs the question, are they truly in the dark about these events?
Yeah.
Or are they actively trying to suppress information?
Those are two very disturbing possibilities.
They are.
And I'm not sure which one is worse.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Because if the government is behind these drones,
Yeah.
maybe they're testing some top secret technology that they don't want the public to know about.
But even then,
Right.
wouldn't they have coordinated with local law enforcement?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe offered some kind of explanation, even if it was under the guise of national security?
You would think so.
Or just a heads up.
Right.
Hey, we're doing some stuff out here. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
But the complete radio silence is very strange.
It is. It's counterintuitive.
It is.
Especially if they were concerned about public panic
Yeah.
or potential leaks.
So if it's not the government, then what is it?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
It is, and it's a very unsettling question.
It is. Because if the government isn't involved and they genuinely don't know what these drones are or where they came from,
Yeah.
that's even more unsettling.
It is, because then we're talking about something truly unknown.
Right.
Something that's potentially operating with technology that dwarfs our own.
Exactly. So we're left with two equally unsettling possibilities,
Yeah.
both of which challenge our understanding of the world and our place in it.
It's a real dilemma. So what do we do?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. How
Yeah.
do we make sense of all of this?
I think the first step is to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers.
Okay.
And that's okay. It's okay to not know everything.
Yeah.
But we need to be open to the possibility that there are things out there that we don't understand.
Right, and things that might challenge our current worldview.
Exactly.
Now, Grooms himself, he believes that these drones could be of non-human origin. Now, I know that's a big leap for some people to make.
It is.
But when you consider all the evidence,
Yeah.
the advanced technology,
Yeah.
the unusual behavior, the lack of any plausible explanation,
Right.
it's a theory that at least deserves consideration.
It does. It does. And a lot of people are starting to take that theory seriously.
They are.
Especially as more and more UAP sightings are reported around the world.
Yeah.
It's becoming harder and harder to dismiss these things as just misidentified aircraft or weather balloons or whatever.
But let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay.
Is there any other possibility that we haven't explored? Could this be some kind of elaborate hoax?
It's always possible,
Yeah.
but the sheer scale of the events in Ord makes a hoax seem unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about multiple witnesses,
Right.
including law enforcement officers,
Yeah.
all describing similar sightings over an extended period of time.
Exactly.
And why would anyone go to such lengths to create a hoax like this?
Right. What would be the motive? And if
Yeah.
it were a hoax, wouldn't we expect someone to come forward by now to claim responsibility or expose the deception?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that somebody would want to take credit for something like that.
Right. So the fact that no one has tried to take credit for it suggests that this is something more than just a prank.
Right. And let's not forget the potential risks involved in staging something like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine the legal repercussions of flying unauthorized drones over populated areas,
Right.
potentially harassing livestock, causing distress to residents. I mean, it's a lot of risk for a very uncertain reward.
Exactly. So if we rule out a hoax
Yeah.
and we're left with either a top secret government project or something truly unknown,
Yeah.
where does that leave us?
It leaves us with a profound mystery and a need for answers.
It does.
And I think it's a call to action.
A call to action.
What do you mean?
We can't just sit back and wait for the government to reveal its secrets.
Right.
Or for extraterrestrials to make contact.
Yeah.
We need to take an active role in seeking the truth.
What can we do?
We need to demand transparency from our leaders.
Okay. We need to support research into these phenomena.
Ah.
And we need to foster a culture of open-mindedness and critical inquiry.
I think that's a great point and a great place to end this part of our deep dive. When we come back, we're going to delve into what all of this means for us. If Grooms' testimony is accurate, what are the implications for our understanding of technology security and the world around us? Stay with us. Okay, so we're back. And we've talked about a lot of strange things happening in Ord, Nebraska. But the big question is, what does it all mean?
Yeah, it's a pretty sobering thought when you really think about it. We like to think that we're at the top of the food chain when it comes to technology.
Right, look, I think we're in control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then something like this comes along and it just throws all of that into question.
It does. And Grooms' experience really does make you wonder if we're as advanced as we think we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those science fiction stories where, humans think they're the most advanced civilization in the galaxy.
And then suddenly they encounter something that's way beyond anything they could have imagined.
Right. It's like our technology suddenly looks like stone tools.
Exactly. And the thing is, this isn't fiction.
Right. This is real.
This is a real person's experience. A former police chief, someone who's sworn to protect and serve.
Right.
And he's telling us that something is happening that we can't explain.
And that's what's so unsettling about all of this. We're used to having answers. We're used to being able to categorize things, put them in neat little boxes. But these UAPs, they just don't fit into any of our existing categories.
Right. They defy explanation. They exist outside of our current framework of knowledge.
So what do we do when we're faced with something like that?
That's a good question. And I think there are a few different ways we can react. We can ignore it, we can dismiss it as nonsense, or we can embrace the mystery and try to learn from it.
What do you think is the best approach?
I think the only way forward is to embrace the mystery.
Okay.
Because ignoring it or dismissing it isn't going to make it go away.
Right. It's still going to be out there.
Exactly. And it might even prevent us from understanding what we're dealing with.
So you're saying we need to be more open-minded?
Yes, absolutely. We need to be willing to consider possibilities that might lie outside of our comfort zone.
But that's not always easy.
No, it's not. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face when it comes to this topic.
What do you mean?
Well, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much sensationalism.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in all of that and lose sight of what's really important.
So how do we separate the signal from the noise?
I think it starts with being skeptical,
Okay.
but not cynical.
What's the difference?
Well, a skeptic is someone who questions things. They demand evidence,
Okay.
but they're also open to the possibility that they might be wrong.
Okay, so they're willing to change their mind if the evidence warrants it.
Exactly. A cynic, on the other hand, is someone who just assumes that everything is a lie.
Okay.
They're not really interested in the truth. They're just looking for reasons to dismiss things.
So you're saying that we need to be skeptical, but not cynical when it comes to UAPs.
Exactly. We need to be critical thinkers. We need to demand evidence, but we also need to be open to the possibility that there might be things out there that we don't understand.
So where does that leave us? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that there's still so much we don't know about the world around us.
Okay.
And that's okay. It's okay to not have all the answers,
Yeah.
but it's important to keep asking questions.
To keep searching for those answers.
Exactly, and to never stop exploring.
I think that's a great message to end on. Keep looking up, keep asking questions, and never stop exploring. Until next time, everybody.